If you like Crowley, tell me what Crowley did. You know what he did? He failed and he died. So if you think Crowley's cool, like, stand up and get the fuck out right now. And I was like, wow, that is not what I was expecting this guy to say.
He failed and he died. I think I know what you mean. What can you explain that?
Well, Crowley is a whole subject in its own too. Crowley was a member of the Golden Dawn, and he got kicked out essentially because he was causing strife, trying to cause schisms. He was making a lot of waves in the original order, and he was also stealing documents and books and putting them out as his own, and they were not his. He stole a lot of stuff from MacGregor Mathers, who was one of the founders of the Golden Dawn. And they had a whole falling out, too, because MacGregor Mathers initiated him into the Second Order without the consent of a bunch of other people. He really didn't need consent, but it did cause a lot of problems. And it's still controversial whether or not he was even really initiated into the Second Order. And then, later on in life, Crowley had a lot of bad things happen to him. I think...
Did he die of syphilis?
I think so. And, he was a drug addict, and he kind of died in poverty. And I do think that Crowley did some good things, but I think overall the bad outweighs the good. And, I hate to say it, he was a spoiled rich kid. So I'm kind of like, well, what do you expect, Right. Like, he was very egotistical, and I know he did a lot of it for shock value. He thought that was like a whole transformative thing. But, Crowley is a good example of this whole, like, hip being attracted to the dark side. Like, everybody's automatically like, ooh, Crowley, like, I'm dark, Right. And, like, you've heard all these metal bands singing about Crowley and stuff, and it's just that whole...
The Beatles.
Yeah, it's that whole, dark aspect, and people are attracted to that, and I get it, like it is a gateway to the occult, but I think that a lot of people, once they get into it, they realize, like, oh, okay, this isn't exactly what I thought it was about.
Right.
Real quick interjection. Speaking of darkness being very cool, a lot of things you see today, just quick example is a lot of youth getting, like, 666 tattooed on them, or like upside down crosses. Now, as like somebody who's aware of all this stuff, somebody who's actually into occultism, would you personally get like a 666 tattooed on you if you don't already?
I wouldn't personally, because of the dogma that's attached to it, but 666 isn't even what people think it is either. That's what I mean. It's like a lot of these people get these images and they have no idea what they even mean. 666 is actually a representation of the sun, not the devil. 666 is the number of the sun. So there are these things called planetary kameas or kameas, however you prefer to say it. And the solar kamea, tablet of the sun, if you want to call it that, is 666 squares. It's 6 squares long, 6 squares up and down, 6 squares diagonally. So that's what that represents to true occultists. It's not
Interesting.
Satanic. But that could also be equated to where a lot of people say Lucifer is the light bringer and can direct you to the sun. That's what I mean. It depends on the context and the source, and it's very deep. Y'all know already. It's like a super deep subject that you can go off in any direction for.
Even something weird like, okay, so you have the kamea of the sun, which I was not aware of, but then you have carbon. The structure of man being 6 protons, neutrons, electrons. Then you have the earth, which is all 666, where the inverse of the tilt is 66.6. The what else is it? It's like 3 major facets of the geography of the earth, or the tilt / the radius. It's all coming into 666, and then when you see all that, you're like, oh shit, this is pretty out there.
Yeah, 6 is also the number of the. If you go down the tree of life, the sixth sphere on the tree of life represents the sun.
Okay. Interesting.
I want to, for the viewers, just to put into context and why we're talking about, was Aleister good? Is this good? What
real
is
quick, the patents. Don't let me forget the patents.
The patents? Oh, okay. What about the patents?
With the numbers.
Oh boy.
But keep going with what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a lot. But I'm just gonna read a quote. This is from just one translation of what is called the The commentary on the Book of Law, which was allegedly written by Aleister Crowley, could have stolen a lot of things. He also wrote the Book of Lies. He also wrote so many other things. But this is just one excerpt from one translation, okay? It says, "The beast 666, which is what he referred to himself as, ordains by his authority that every man and every woman and every intermediately sexed individual shall be absolutely free to interpret and communicate self by means of any sexual practice soever, whether direct or indirect, rational or symbolic, psychologically, legally, ethically, or religiously approved, or no, provided only that all parties to any act are fully aware of all implications and responsibilities thereof. Moreover, the beast 666 adviseth that all children shall be accustomed from infancy to witness every type of sexual act, as also the process of birth, lest falsehood fog and mystery stupefy their minds, whose error else might thwart and misdirect the growth of their subconscious system of soul symbolism." There's a lot to unpack there, but, you know, allegedly what this all leads up to is the strong use of sexual energy in ritualistic magic, or at least the way Aleister liked it. And so maybe this is the part where people start to get weird about Aleister, because maybe this has a lot to do with his addictions and his drug use and his egotism, that he starts to involve sex into it a lot, and kids, you know what I mean?
Well, he was, you know, this is 100 years ago plus now, and, you know, that was completely radical back then to even almost talk about sex publicly. So I think that he, you know, Aleister Crowley was the type of guy that, and I get where he was going with this, but it's like, that's not for everyone. He was the type of guy where he's like, break all these restrictions, break all this dogma, and get rid of it, and you'll spiritually grow faster than ever. And it's like, well, yeah, that might be true for some people, but I don't think it's good to go around and preach that. It's like, you know, look at all of these like crazy hippie cults. It's like they all end up having sex with each other, and that's when things go bad, because it's like, that's not for everybody. And when that starts happening, people are going to get hurt from it. You know, Aleister Crowley, for example, there's a huge debate out there about him supposedly raping Israel Regardie.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know. A lot of people might not know who Israel Regardie is. He was Aleister Crowley's secretary. He released a bunch of the Golden Dawn documents. That's what I mean. It's a very controversial subject. But when you look into it, regardless of what happened with them, I do believe that there is some hurt there because of all of that. And that's what I mean. It's like, you know, the best way for me to explain it is, like I said, it's like, look at all of these hippie cults that start having sex with each other. It's like, once that starts happening, things start crashing, you know?
It is widely known that the tobacco and diet industries lobby governments with scientific propaganda for years until proven guilty in court. The artificial treatment of our water is the next corporate deception.
For example, virtually every nation in Europe has rejected the use of artificial fluoride. International studies since the 40s have repeatedly shown that endocrine and neurological effects increase after repeated consumption, even at the levels accepted by U.S. government.
Epic Water Filters is the most thorough industry-grade filtration system that Houston Ensemble has ever used. They reduce heavy metals upwards of 99.5%, such as lead and mercury, bacteria like E. coli, and poisons like chromium, nitrate, and fluoride.
Join us in our journey to living a toxin-free life and get your Epic Water Filter using discount code Houston Ensemble, lowercase, one word. That's Houston Ensemble, lowercase, one word, for 20% off your Epic Water Filter.